Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back with Dr. Pat and Dr. Sanchita. And this afternoon, we're going to have a very informal conversation. We are so glad for all of you who have come to join us this afternoon. And by way of introducing myself, I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to ask my guest to introduce herself. So I am Reverend Dr. Pat Murphy, and I'm the ecclesiastical endorser for American Baptists with oversight to chaplains, pastoral counselors, spiritual directors, and specialized ministers, and also convening the national network of all of those wonderful and amazing persons.
Well, this is such a great opportunity for me to be here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Reverend Dr. Sanchita Kisku. I am a senior pastor of First Baptist Church of Kalamazoo, and I'm also a liaison for Network for Region 4, where I work with different chaplaincy group. My region is Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. It's such an honor for me to be here, and we can encounter and talk about our pastoral care and counseling and the spiritual care that we can provide from our church and home and whatever capacity we have. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. And so when Dr. Sanchita and I were thinking about what could we talk about to engage persons that will be joining us this afternoon, and we thought about staying consistent with the theme, because we are here in lovely, beautiful Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Yes, give it up. At our mission summit, right? And we realized that we tried to get here in 2021, but COVID-19 said something totally different, and we were not able to be here. And the amazing thing is there was also a threat of Hurricane Brett coming, once again trying to stop us, but we're here. So we are excited to be here. So we thought that we would focus on the theme that says, in times like these. So in times like these, I wanted to ask my colleague, what are some of the positive aspects that you're seeing now that we're on the almost tail end of COVID-19?
Well, when we look back on the COVID, it feels like COVID has set up as a new generations, new timeline in our life. And from the pastoral care, spiritual care perspective, I see COVID also has given us the opportunity how to use the technology, like Zoom in, have a FaceTime, talk with a Skype, and connect with your loved one. The social media was really a good boost, I will say, to provide the pastoral care, because the spiritual care that we provide is always in person. But actually the COVID-19 has taught us that in different way, different process and method we can use. So I definitely feel that is a positive thing, number one. And number two, now I'm so excited to say that being a caregiver, there are many hospitals and nursing homes. They're allowing us to go and provide the pastoral care in person. And it is such an intimate and big presence, make us more providing there and providing the spiritual care to the patient and to the family, and also the other caregiver who are in this setting. So those are I would definitely count as a positive thing.
And when I was thinking about it, one of the other positive factors that I've seen is the art and the ministry of chaplaincy has heightened. Right before, they thought the chaplains were rejected clergy. Right, they would say the chaplains are the ones who can't make it in the pulpit.
Right.
But now, since COVID-19, now everybody want to know what is a chaplain. Everybody now wants. A lot of people are now asking, what do I need to do to become a chaplain? So I think that one of the positives is that we were able to have our ministries amplified in ways that were not previously before COVID-19. And so I think that's one of the amazing things, and that people are also gaining a new appreciation for chaplaincy. And even when family members couldn't come, you can get a chaplain to come and to do the FaceTime for you. When you couldn't be there as family, you had the chaplain who could stand in the gap for you, to hold your loved one's hand, to be there with them, to encourage them while you were not allowed to come into the hospital. So I want to take an opportunity to ask the audience, what are some of the positive things that you're receiving from spiritual caregivers? Anybody from the audience? Yes.
Hi. So I think one of the things that I have seen is actually having the family be open to reaching other family members in other cities. Whereas before we had to give a family reunion, somebody had to be sick or get married. But now we can just say, hey, well, let's just get on Zoom. And then my niece was not getting the young people with the seniors. She started giving games. So every Sunday at 2:00, we came together in like 12 different states and play this game as a family. So what happened is that this was a safe place for all of us to come and feel really, really great about each other and keep up with each other and know who was sick before it came to a time that they were taking from us. So for that reason, more happy the heart, the better lifestyle you have, and you get to know who had the newest baby.
Yes, that's so true. I just wanted to add, chaplaincy, as Dr. Pat was saying, that many people are searching a chaplain center where they can do a professional trained, to be a professional trained chaplaincy. And there are many people are searching because I think this profession was always underneath of some kind of ministry, but it is not a defined a profession ministry that people were seeking. But I think that is another point that has added after the COVID, because it was such a limited, like when it's something is, even today when you go to the hospital and a doctor and chaplain is walking into this room, the family thinks that chaplain is bringing the bad news for us. As soon as the doctor is introducing that this is a chaplain in our hospital or in our healthcare system. But I think that status has gone up a little bit. People started to recognize that the chaplain is not only for to bring in the bad news or grieve news for your family, but it is chaplain is also there to walk with you.
Yes.
Yeah, walk with you when you are grieving. Walk with you for several weeks after you lost your dear one. Be with you, support you, and help you. If you are really stressed, or in depression, or in grieving, to losing your own child, or losing your grandparents, which is a loved one, always there is a connection. But the chaplain will be always there for you to have those connections, to help you to make those connections at the different professions. And chaplain will become a professional spiritual caregiver for you. It's becoming very popular because most of the people, the younger generations and the people, they don't want to hear any preaching that a pastor is going and preaching. But I think they love when you sit with that. Face to face, women like to sit with the face to face if they're grieving and they have a difficult time. And many men or younger generations, they want to sit beside one another. And just be there. And I think that is the most one of those, be presence is one of those, the professions that we do.
I think that that's one of the greatest things that we offer as chaplains is the ministry of presence. When I was serving in the hospital system, I would say that this is a walk as the intimate stranger, because people would be more intimate with you as the chaplain than they would with the people they live with, and that they share intimate space with. So we would create that sacred space where they would feel safe enough to share what is really burdening them and what is really on their hearts and their minds. And a lot of times it's not about fixing, because we don't fix anyone, but it's being there to listen. And as Dr. Sanchita said, and to walk alongside of them and to let them know that they are not alone on this journey. But one of the other things that I appreciated was being able to even dedicate the babies. So most traditions, they say baptize the babies, but we're Baptists, right? So we don't baptize babies. But what we do is, in order to make the family, the mother, and especially if the baby expired or died, use that language, that they would want some kind of official ceremony. So then we're doing education contingent upon what their faith tradition is, right? So if they're Protestant, then we have the conversation. We don't baptize the baby, but we're willing to dedicate the baby and to be able to actually do the ceremony at the mother's bedside, right? And even in opportunities where I baptize people, and my chaplain here, Navy chaplain, where we can find water, we can baptize you.
Right.
So even if you can't, it was a situation where we baptized a woman in the shower. And then another time, an LPN, she brought the bowl, and because the woman couldn't move, so we put her head underneath the water. So there's many opportunities, and I don't think people realize that chaplains do full service as pastors and pulpits do. And for most people, I don't know if you've experienced, which I'm quite sure you have, you become the pastor to the people, right? So we have the first responders, we have the nurses and the doctors who never even, some of them, get an opportunity to go to service on Sunday, right? And especially the junior first years through the third year, they have to be on call all the time. So there's a chapel in the hospital. Every hospital has to have some sort of chapel. Most of them, now they call them community rooms in some. So they're trying to take out the spirituality in a lot of hospitals, but research has proven that spirituality is connected to someone being well, right? It's a part of holistic care. And so I don't know if a lot of people even know that chaplains preach sermons. Now, we don't do a Sunday morning Baptist all for 2-hour sermon, right? Because they do people sick. So we would do 30 minutes, right? A 30-minute worship service to keep the people uplifted.
All right.
And so, anybody else have any questions? Anybody curious about the things about chaplaincy and pastoral counselors?
Any other positive note?
Positive. We need some positive.
Yes.
How do a young person? Well, I know you have been doing a fantastic ministry through ABHMS about the chaplaincy program. So somebody who is so young like me wanted to be part of chaplain ministry. How does I get into this program? How do ABHMS work with us to get to this wonderful ministry that you're talking about?
That's a great question.
Yep.
You want to start?
Sure. The chaplain training actually has a different educational institutions, which is called CPE or ACPE, Associate of Chaplaincy Associations, and they have all the hospitals, and they have a supervisor, educator, and if you can enroll for 3 months, that's the first unit. They call as first unit. So most of the seminarian are required to go to the chaplaincy for the summer unit, to do a 1 unit because of the denominational requirement. And I think this is a good opportunity if we, in nearby your house or in your church institution, if you have any kind of a chaplaincy institution in the hospital, so they will guide you. And the first unit is always at the basic unit that you will learn what is chaplaincy, and you will walk with the other chaplains for shadowing and everything. But if you are professionally interested, you can enroll for a residency program. And most of the hospital for the residency program, they give a tuition stipend to the students.
Yes.
So,
And then to add to that, the interesting thing is to be a professional chaplain, you should be 4 years in seminary. Now, let me just pause and say this. Contingent upon what area of chaplaincy you want to go to dictates how much training that you have to take. But for all the way across the board, for professional chaplains, the minimum requirement is an MDiv. Right? And so like my sister here, Chaplain Kui, she's a United States active duty Navy chaplain. Let's give her a hand. She serves. Amen. We're so proud of her. And so for her, she does not need CPE to be in a military chaplaincy coming in. Once she becomes, and she promotes up to captain, which she'll be probably by next week. So when she gets captain status and higher, then she's able to take CPE. Now, I don't know why the military does it that way, but of course the services. So when I say services, I'm talking about the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, all of them same kind of similar standards. And also, as you asked, Chai, if you are a young person, you can come in as bachelor's degree, but you need to be registered in a seminary, and it's called the Chaplain Candidacy Program. For the military, all branches have a chaplain candidate program. So there's many ways if you're doing military. Now, if you're doing healthcare, then as Dr. Sanchita said, you have to take CPE. Right. Some people take the CPE in Veterans Administration, so they'll become federal chaplains, VA, serving our nation's troops. So I had the pleasure of visiting the Puerto Rico and Caribbean VA here while I was here on the island. Wonderful, amazing center. And in addition, you need ordination. So as I said to you all, a lot of people don't realize that chaplains perform the ordinances of the church. So therefore, that's why you need to be ordained. Yeah. You need to go to seminary, and depending on where you're going, if you're going to be a federal correctional chaplain, then you need one CPE. But if healthcare, VA chaplain, now they raised the ante. It used to be 2 units for the VA, but now they moved it up, and now it's 4 units. And so what's happening, since you asked the question, put me out here, what's happening is because chaplaincy is becoming a more respected field, it's been heightened after it's been, research has been done to prove hows are essential to the interdisciplinary teams, working with the physicians, the social workers, the whole team. And so now they moved us up to clinical level because they put into the metrics where now Medicaid and Medicare is now able to bill. So that is an amazing accomplishment for us. So what's going to happen is I predict, as I'm watching the trend, in about another 5 years or less, chaplains will have to become licensed.
Yes, yes. I also want to add that you also have to be endorsed by endorsed by our wonderful denominations, and she's our endorser, and I help her. I have worked and I think read so many papers and individual interview I did, and such a wonderful experience that I have whenever she sent me some of the candidate. So I mean, she can say more about it.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. How can I forget that you need to be endorsed, right? So one or the other is to have an endorsement before you could go to military or any professional. And so what happens in our endorsement process, we have brochures over at the table, but one of the things that we do have is a face-to-face interview. So when candidates come to me, I'm talking to them, getting to know them, right? But I also need some other people viewpoint, right? So what I do is I get a senior level chaplain to help me by having a face-to-face interview. And Dr. Sanchita has done a lot of them for us. So I sent to her the person's biographical sketch because people have to write about their faith tradition and specifically their call to chaplaincy. So they have to be able to not only articulate it to me verbally, but they need to be able to write it. And so I love when Dr. Sanchita reads these papers alongside of me because she pulls out things that I might not have seen. And so then I say to her, okay, so this is what you do. When you talk to them, ask them the question. Because some people, they can speak their theology much better than they can. So you can tell them, share some of your experiences.
Well, some of the papers that I read, it's such a vulnerable and the reality that they wrote it down. But some of them are very polishing. When you write something, because it's a document, it's a very polished. But when I do the face-to-face interview, I could see how they are burned out and how vulnerable they are, how much they are grieving, and how much their wound is still fresh, and their grief is not in a small and dot anywhere, but it's spreaded. So those aspects, when I see and I make it in their it is a true testimonial they're sharing with me because they feel confidence to share. And that vulnerable situation, I really feel like they will be the best one to go and serve and be with other people. So that will be my assessment on any candidate that come and I interview them.
Yes, and then it goes, and if Dr. Sanchita tells me something, then I get on the phone and have a conversation with the individual to see where they are, see if they're working on it. Because one thing that I do not like to do is tell someone that they have not been called to something, right? And it's probably more so because being a woman, how people challenge us when we step up and say God called us to a ministry. So I'm very sensitive to that. So we look at areas and ways that we can support.
Correct.
So Sanchita, she interviewed one candidate and she became her mentor. And so
Yes, I am also a mentor. Yes, now I remember. Yes, I'm mentoring. Yes.
And she did an amazing job mentoring this individual. I said, Sanchita, okay, listen, I'm putting it up to you. You see what she needs and walk her through it. And then I had the person send me a written report. And so Dr. Sanchita assigned some materials for her to read. And I believe that through this mentoring that she's a better and a stronger person. So we're still working with her, but we did not say no, because we believe in iron sharpening iron and helping people to be their better selves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I think I need to move on to the next question. So the next question I want to ask is, what are some of the challenges that we are facing that you think we're facing in times like these as spiritual caregivers?
First one, I will say the pastoral authority. Many times we don't keep the boundary on a pastoral authority, and the pastoral authority actually from the scripture, our Holy Scripture. When we see that, it is just simply says three things: it's a empathy, have a compassion, and also be humility or vulnerable into this. Because we are in person and one chaplaincy caregiver or spiritual provider, when we stand there, many times their story becomes our stories, and then we don't listen anymore. We say, oh, this is my dad had one through, my grandmother has this, my son was wounded, our story, we want to bring it out. So in the pastoral authority, what we need to have this boundary space, and we had to have that boundary to say that this is your, and I'm there for you to hear. And so that my story and Mark's, it should not be mixed up. And those are the definitely challenging situations when we are in chaplaincy or spiritual caregiver, when we stand there. Second thing, I will say that we burn out. We have a 24-hour call, and if it is in 24 hours, 3 deaths happen. We have to realize that we are human beings first, and emotionally be there, and emotionally be with the family, and we all have a master family. Older sisters have a more power than a younger sister. Older brother has a. So those family dynamic when we deal and when we see, and we know that that's because it is happening in our family. It's our family stories. So those time we need to set up those boundaries, and also the burnout happen all the time. Yes.
Yes.
So I was hoping you addressed that because burnout happens in all professions. But since you've been doing this a while, what suggestions do you offer to eliminate the burnout or to correct the burnout? We can talk about burnout is there, but let's try to fix the problem. How can that happen? A couple of things that I do personally, because I like to, wherever I'm working as a hospital setting, it is better for me to drive at least 20 minutes or 15 minutes. So I'm leaving that area, that context. When I'm home, I feel like I take shower and I'm washing off everything. Take a deep shower. Many people go to the gym. After my burnout and my exhausted, I don't feel like, but many people does that. They are passions. You can do that. Somebody goes to the massaging, and somebody sit there and listen to meditations. They do a lot of music help. So those are the couple of things that we have been told and trained again and again. I will say best thing is watch Netflix, relax.
Yes.
YouTube, YouTube have a lot of fun videos which you like. Forget about spend a lot of time with your family, kids, and then I think those are the aspect what you like, and make it a more point. What you like. If you like to come back and a whole day, and then you like to cook, let's cook it. If you have to bake, let it bake it. So something. Some people like to sleep or stay in a bed, breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the bed. So those are some of the things that we have been told again and again to do practice. Many people love to go to the church on Sunday, so that it feels more fellowship and community oriented. So that in that way you forget what is happening.
Yes, and so to add to what Dr. Sanchita was saying, one of the things that they've been driving hard is self-care.
You're right.
Self-care, but for some strange reason, no matter whether you're chaplain, spiritual director, pastoral counselor, clergy, pastor, associate, wherever you stand, for some reason we want to give, and give, right? To be falling off by the string. And sometimes people, I know some chaplains, I have to tell them, I need you to sit down somewhere. And I tell them that way because they hear that, right? And self-care has been the biggest thing that we've been hearing. And so self-care is how do we care for ourselves as we're caring for those that God has called us to serve. And I think that is a challenge for most caregiving type people, and especially if you have the spirit of giving. It is a challenge, and I'll say it is a challenge to break away. And I think that is something that we are learning more and more and more and more and more as the days go. So me personally, I've gotten into this thing now where I'll just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm taking the day just to give my head an opportunity to rest, because I'm one of those people who didn't understand that I need to do that for myself, and also with the boundaries, because people will pull on your heartstrings because you're the chaplain, you're the spiritual caregiver, right? So you're supposed to be there to help me. What do you mean you're not going to help me today? Imagine calling your pastor, your clergy, and they said, not today, right? And so there's ways in which we have to learn how to do that more. Anybody else in the audience have anything you would like to share to that? Chaplain Queen, oh wait.
And then Chaplain Creed, what you do with military chaplains. 2 more. So what I have discovered for self-care for myself is, one, I had to declare that I do need a Sabbath day.
Yes.
I do need a Sabbath day. Going to church on Sunday, I love worship, but let's be honest, when you're clergy, it's work. And I'm going to call it that.
Right.
So declaring a day for Sabbath where I am resting at home and feeding my own soul. Sometimes that means cooking. Sometimes that means laying on the sofa with the remote.
Yes. Right.
And another thing is discovering what I really love. I love water aerobics. So going to water aerobics, being intentional, knowing the schedule,
Right.
and going. I love a good massage.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a massage package and I put it on the calendar. And then the last thing that I've done that really makes a difference, because like you said, somebody says, I'm ready to go and do it. So I have started look at my calendar, and I have a big calendar. And when I see that I've got a lot of stuff going on, I write one day it has something.
Right.
I write the word something.
Right.
So now when you ask me to do something, I can say, let me check my calendar, and I can legitimately, truthfully say, I have something on my calendar today.
That's funny.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will just share as a Navy chaplain perspective. So one of the biggest challenges I've been having is setting a boundary, like self-care, because on my command, we have 360 sailors, and they all have my cell phone number, and I'm 24/7. And we have about 30 officers, and I'm the only command chaplain. When you're the only command chaplain, all the sailors want to talk to you. The reason I say it's hard because I had this sailor called me 1 a.m. in the morning last week, who was having suicidal ideations. He didn't know who to call. He didn't want to call his change of command, so he called me. And then she said, "Chaps, I having this thought. I don't know what to do." So I literally have to take him to the ER and to the Navy hospital. So those kind of instances, for me, it's rare. So I don't want to turn off my phone ever, because I'm like, what if sailor needed me at that time when they're having this suicidal ideation? I'm going to give you an example. So I came to this island to have a few days vacation with my parents. Literally on the first 2 days while we were exploring the island, my sailors kept calling me. I had to pull over the car. My parents were with me by the beach. They were waiting for me because I was talking to this sailor who's having a hard time going through crisis. And then, this is, at the end of the day, I don't know what to do. So I had to literally call my command, let them know that, hey, I'm on vacation. Is there anything that I can do? Because sometimes we don't want to use a pastor authority, especially if we are 100% confidential. In the Navy, we are like a Catholic priest, right? So all the sailors want to come to you for any problem, because they know that you're the only one who will listen to you, will not tell your issues or problem with any other person, right? So it's kind of really hard. So what for me right now, I have to really learn how to set a boundary. But like I said, it's hard. I'm still finding ways how to do this thing, because you're the only command chaplain. You're the only one that they want to talk to you. They want to come to you, especially like I said, all the sailors going through this stress, having a suicidal ideation, especially mental health is a big problem in the Navy right now.
Right.
I literally have 3 sailors that I had to take to Navy hospital last week, just before I came. That's why my command chaplain really afraid to send me here. Mm-hmm. He don't want to give me this exactly. So I literally have to send the letter that Dr. Pat sent it to us. I said, sir, if you want me to stay in the Navy, because when my endorser pull my endorsement, I won't be able to serve the Navy anymore.
Yes.
Because we're wearing 2 insignia, right? We have officer, we have cross, And then I said, sir, if my endorser take away this cross, I won't be able to be in the Navy. So he said, all right, then I'll have to let you go. So it's hard. So but I hear my captain's concern because he knows that when I'm gone, who's going to take care of these sailors? So he's kind of a little bit, he was really stressed. But then what happened, the good thing is that I have another ship that next to my ship, you know, I have another chaplain that who can cover for me for emergency cases. So I have his number. So you have to, in the Navy, you have to look for ways, you have to really connect with other chaplains. Otherwise, you're the only person.
Right.
Because now the only thing that gives me peace is knowing that I have another chaplain, a Navy chaplain that who is covering for me for any emergency cases. So it's hard. It's really, really challenging. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Besides self-care, and I think we feel guilty because we are in ministry of God, so we feel we need to be a 24/7. But definitely, as the sister said, we need to practice the Sabbath, and unless we practice the Sabbath, we will never be able to recharge.
And thank you, Chaplain Quee, for sharing that. So now you gave me something to advocate for. So if anybody here today, you're desiring to be a chaplain in the military, come and talk to me. Because no, the recruiter that was here for the Air Force, I do know that the billets are down and they do need more chaplains in the armed services. So if you're here today or you have some kids at home, talk to us, talk to Chaplain Quee so that we can recruit more so Chaplain Quee can have some good boundaries. Amen. Amen. And so, even though we would love to keep on talking, our tech is telling me that if I don't do an infomercial, he's going to go blank on the screen on us. But I want to thank you all, and I want to encourage you that if ever you had any questions about pastoral caregiving and you want some vignettes, I invite you to visit our Judson Press booth. We have a collection of case studies on different types of scenarios that people experience. We have a book on ministry and relationships. We have one on when you're in crisis. We have a book on ministry when you go to the hospital. And we have one in specialized settings. So if you're a spiritual caregiver, please feel free to visit the Judson Press bookstore where you can get these books and have them as a resource. So we thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. God's blessed speed. And remember, hug a spiritual caregiver today.
Yeah. Thank you.